With a thin metal kidney, I'm scraping around the bottom of the pot to free it from the wooden base so that it makes it a little easier for me to turn it over to put the feet on. Quite tough, so take it very, very, very gently. Up we go, and the other side. And now I'm going to put some sponge spaces inside the pot to the same level as the rim. And I'll check that now, as you can see with the wood. Yep, that's fine. And now I'll put a piece of wooden board over the top so that I can flip the pot over. And this is quite a heavy pot, so it takes some doing. Right, under and over. There you go. Now take the bottom off. Right, now as you can see, the edge is a little bit rough, so I'm just cleaning this up with a little wooden kidney again. And you see I've got a lump burr of clay which I can scrape off now with the metal kidney. Round and round, here we go. So merry-go-round. And now what I've got to do is to take that burr off. So I'm softening it up here with a sponge damped in some water. I'll go around several times. Occasionally I might even wet the sponge again. And then I'm using a little device that I made just to smooth this edge round. And again, we'll go round several times. These little devices I made out of some brass sheet. And I learnt about this many, many years ago when I was a kiddie in Hong Kong. I watched some Chinese workmen smoothing off the edge of a gutter doing this. I was absolutely intrigued, and it works a treat. So there we go. Now just take the burr off again with a soft rubber kidney. That just tidies it up a little. And now I'm doing the same with my finger on the inside of the drainage holes, just taking that tiny little rough edge off each of the rings. Lovely, sorted. Now in each corner I'm marking the centre with a potter's pin so that I'll know exactly where to place each of the feet when they're ready. Right, having done that, we go over to the extruder, and here I'm extruding a length of clay which is in a sort of lozenge shape. It's oval in cross section, and I'm going to make my feet, I think it's 6 inches, so 3 inches either side. So 3 inches, mark the center, cut. Mark the center, again, cut. So that's 2 6-inch lengths. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is cut a little V out of the center of each. This makes bending it round easier and reduces any distortion of the clay when you do fold it over, as you'll see. Here we go. Around gently. When you handle these preformed feet, or sausages, whatever the case may be, you've got to hold them very gently so that you don't actually indent the leading edge. You want to keep that nice rounded shape. So they're just placed roughly in position, and I go back to the extruder, and here we go again. It's lovely feeling this. I really enjoy it. Excuse me. We do the same thing as we did earlier and cut the little V's out. I'll mark them first. Boom, 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 boom. Done. So now we will have all 4 feet made and placed roughly in position. And then the next job coming up will be to put the feet in exactly their right positions in relationship to the corners of the pot. I mean, I don't always have equisided lengths. Sometimes I might have a longer length along the longer side of the pot and a shorter length on the shorter side. But in this case, I've decided to make them symmetric. So here I'm placing the feet in position and always holding the actual profile lozenge and tapping gently, always holding it very, very gently, because the clay is quite soft and it's so easy to distort its shape. So now what I'm doing with the pin is marking around each one of the feet that I've placed. And I do this on all 4. And then the feet are lifted off so that in turn I can scratch the bases of both the bottom of the feet and the bottom of the pot. And I'll shift now from that single potter's pin to a multiple pin with five needles sticking out of it, which makes the whole process a lot quicker, because otherwise it can take quite a lot of time. It's a fiddly job. So here we go. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. So we crisscross both ways. I'm cutting relatively deeply. What this does is it creates a nice tooth. And I do exactly the same on the undersides of each of the feet. And then they can bite into each other. It's almost like a dovetail sort of thing, you know, where one thing fits into the other. But also by creating this roughness, when I apply some water, as you'll see, it will soften those little bits of sticking up clay to make its own in-place slurry, as it were. Right, and now we do exactly the same thing on each of the feet. And the reason why I'm not using sort of time-lapse and fast forward movements and showing you the whole thing is because I find it very, very, very frustrating sometimes when I watch videos and the things go around so quickly that I'm having to stop, backwind, relook, stop, backwind, relook, and do this over and over again to get the gist of what's happening. So I've decided in this particular case to take my time and show you the whole thing, like it or not. So now I'm putting just water, nothing else, dipping the brush into some water and just plonking it on. Be careful that when you apply the water that you're not sort of brushing it on heavily, because you don't want to distort the clay that you've dug up, as it were. And the water is only put on the one side, incidentally, and it works a little bit like super glue, which is always only put on one side, so that when you attach the foot, it then in turn soaks up some of that water, making a really good bond. And again, you've got to be very careful because the foot is quite soft, and I'm tapping down very, very gently and sort of vibrating the foot as well into position. And now what I'm doing is I'm using a sharpened pencil just to tidy up around each of the feet. And I do this with a pencil rather than a pointed bit of plastic or wood, because the pencil lead is graphite, and graphite is a lubricant, so it makes it smoother. Clever stuff, this. Round we go, tidying all of them up. I do it on the insides as well, but quite honestly, it's not really as important as doing it on the outside, because the inside's going to be hidden anyway, as you'll see in a moment. Very, very gently, very gently. You see, I'm holding the pencil quite far back, and this way you can control the gentleness rather more easily than if you held the pencil right down towards its point. Now what I'm doing is with one finger, I'm just pressing the foot down and attaching it firmly but carefully onto the base of the pot. And you've got to be very careful with this, because if you press too hard, you can actually push the pot base in as well and distort it. And I'm doing more or less the same thing on the edges of each of the feet. Now with a wooden former, and I've made several of these and they've all got different diameters, I'm going around the front edge just to smooth it off. And you can see it works quite nicely. Normally, actually, I would have done this before sticking the feet down. I forgot to, I'm afraid, in this particular case. Because then by doing it before sticking the feet down, you can actually pull the thing right off the edge of each foot. And now just take a tiny little tidy up of the base with a soft rubber kidney, and then I'll make my personal mark, which is bonsai. It was a nickname that was given to me many, many, many years ago by one of our club members, and it stuck. So DANSAI 2021. And that's all done now, and I hope that's shown you how I make my feet. What I'm doing now is I'm making the holes for the wire ties that will be used later to secure the trees in position when they're planted up. And I'm also making additional ones with a much smaller diameter hole, and these are for my security wires, which you can see in another video. Now once again I'm placing my spaces and the board is returned, and we've got to flip this over and we'll check to see that everything is okay. And under and over and up we go. Whoa! There you go. Now that's not too bad. Works quite nicely. Well, I hope you found this quite helpful, and we will be making a number of other videos from time to time to show all manner of different little potting techniques that I use.